the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Join the conversation with web channel Politics in Color, powered by BitCentral, Globecast, Blakehon Media, and Aza Group.
We are back here live at the Democratic National Convention here in Chicago, Illinois, at the United Center, the house that Mike built. And we now have with us the chair of the DNC, Jamie Harrison. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome. So far, so good.
Oh my, we're knocking it out of the park. You know, this is like a big family reunion. In many ways it is. We as a party, Democrats, have not gotten together live and in person for a convention since 2016 in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
So everything you see at a family reunion, people are laughing, they're dancing, they're crying, they're hugging, and everything in between. And it's just such a wonderful experience to be in a campaign that is built around joy and hope.
Let's talk about that energy.
Yeah.
The energy level has risen over the last couple of weeks.
It really has.
So how do you take that energy forward? How do you turn that energy into victory?
Well, this is the great thing. For the last 3.5 years, thanks to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and working with me, we have been rebuilding the infrastructure of the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
And that infrastructure is now a vehicle to contain that energy so that we can utilize it to push forward to get to November. You know, we've been focused on voter registration for the first time in 2 decades. We built the largest voter protection program we've ever had in the history of this party. For the last 3 years or so, we've been in the battleground states. We've been putting boots on the ground in those states.
Mm-hmm.
We have given 40% more to our state parties to help them compared to Howard Dean, which was the real high strategy of
Right.
the 50-state strategy. So we're ready. We're ready to win a tough battle, and I can't say that about the Republican Party.
What would you say what is the real key, or what's in this for communities of color? Why should they care?
They should care because your future, your freedom, your rights are all on the ballot. Look at what happens when we sit on our hands and say, well, both parties are the same, or I'm not going to exercise my right. When you say that you're not going to exercise your right, you're basically saying, I'm going to give up my vote and I'm going to give up my voice.
Mm-hmm.
And all the things that happen in society, I'm going to let you determine how that impacts me and my family and my community. But you may not have the same values that I have. You may not look at the world in the same way. The things that you want to do may not be what I want. But by not exercising my right, I'm giving you that authority to make those decisions for me. And we can't do that, my friends.
Mm-hmm.
We all got to stand up. And so this Democratic Party has been fighting for black folks. Look at what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have been able to do. For the first time, billions of dollars of student loan debt relief. And people say, well, everybody gets it. But black folks disproportionately have student loans.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Pell Grant kid. I know about the power of Pell Grants. And guess what? Joe Biden increased that. Kamala Harris increased that. They waived all of that. We saw insulin prices drop dramatically. In the black community, you're either diabetic, pre-diabetic, or you know somebody with diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And so to have the cost of insulin drop to $35 a month is a big deal. Look at the judges that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have put on the court. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have appointed more black women to the courts of appeals than all presidents combined.
Wow.
And that includes putting the first black woman on the Supreme Court. Now, I could go on and on, but I know we don't have all day. But that's just to show you that this Kamala Harris has been fighting for our community, and she will continue to do that when she's president of the United States.
DNC Chair Jamie Harris, thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
Greatly appreciate
you.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
All right. Well, you heard it from the chairman himself. Folks, we are here, Politics in Color. Join the conversation. There's more. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
It's the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Join the conversation with web channel Politics in Color, powered by BitCentral, Globecast, Blakehon Media, and Aza Group.
Welcome back here at the DNC. We are live at the United Center. As the convention rolls on, we continue to have amazing guests, and this woman sitting next to me is no different. We have Becky Pringle here, who, by the way, is the president of the nation's largest union. It's the teachers union. Well, it's officially the National Education Association, which represents all of the teachers. How many members? Because I was thrown back. And welcome to Politics in Color.
Well, thank you. It's good to be back. We have 3 million members. Our members are in every single congressional district in this country.
The largest union in the country. And I always thought it was the UAW, all the automotive ones. You are running the largest, and can I say it's probably also underpaid, right? all those teachers and educators. Yeah. And it's interesting, now our new vice president candidate was in your system, right? As a teacher.
Certainly. Yes, he was. We're very excited that we have a teacher voice who will be in the White House.
So your organization, tell us what their importance is for the Democratic National Convention as represented from the union.
Well, first of all, we represent the largest contingent of delegates here at this convention. We have for a long time. And to have educator voices, not just our teachers, but our support staff, bus drivers and secretaries, nurses and counselors, here representing our students and the people who have dedicated their lives to educating America's children is absolutely essential, because you know what I believe, you know what's true, that public education is the foundation of our democracy.
So I remember one of the last times we spoke during COVID, listen, you were going through it. Well, the entire country was, but with your teachers and your educators, working from home and the issues that they had to deal with, you had to learn to pivot quickly in order to keep America's children educated, the students, keep them in colleges, to keep the universities on track. I remember we had those conversations. Right. What can you say to a woman like Vice President Harris, who has quickly had to pivot? It's been about, 17 days, or let's just say almost 3 weeks since she went from just coming to a convention like this to shake some hands to now being the presidential nominee. How do you pivot?
You know what I would say to her? I didn't think about this, and when I say, I will say this to her. When you asked the question, you know who I thought about? Marian Anderson, that amazing contralto singer, opera singer.
Yeah.
She said that leadership is the intersection between preparedness and opportunity. Mm-hmm. That is Kamala Harris. She is prepared. And this opportunity presented itself, and what did she do? She just went through that door, because she is ready to be the president of these United States. Joe Biden would not have selected her unless he knew she'd be ready day one. She is ready to not only continue the work that they have done over these past 3.5 years, which has been incredible for our students and public education and educators, but she has the record to prove it and the vision to inspire us all.
So you lead a group of 3 million Americans. She potentially will lead over 300 million Americans. What qualities does she need to have? Because I think one of the issues up so far has been we don't know who Kamala Harris is. We've seen her in this secondary role as vice president, but America does not know who she is. What type of leader is she? We saw you lead through COVID. We've seen you lead post-COVID and get the educational system back on track for America. What kind of leader will Vice President Harris be?
Well, she already has a strong record of leadership. But with Kamala, what you see is what you get. She is brilliant. She is determined. She is caring and compassionate. She is fierce and feisty. And she actually believes in the poetry of our Constitution, we the people. We the people, all of us deserve that right to be truly free. Mm-hmm. And it shows up in everything she does. And by the way, yes, she was the vice president. But in Kamala Harris, Joe Biden entrusted leading on the climate, leading on women's rights, leading on voting rights. So what you saw coming from this administration, She was his partner in every way, leading on these issues that impact not just our students, but our communities.
And then we have to think about the black and brown vote. Sometimes our issues, or most times our issues, are not received or implemented. And there are different issues that come in, just like when in the education system. Little black and brown kids sometimes may need a little bit more attention, or they may have different circumstances at home. And so we need our educators to embrace them. How do you think Vice President Harris will embrace the black and brown voice and some of their issues that they're taking to the polls on November 5th?
One of the things that we've been working on, you've heard me talk about this before. I've called it a 5-alarm crisis when we talk about the educator shortage.
Yes.
And in partnering with the Biden-Harris administration, with Vice President Harris leading the way, one of the things that we are working on is increasing teacher salaries, because we know they've never been paid in a way that reflects the important work they do, but also respecting them as the professionals they are, making teaching and learning decisions. You hear talking about that all the time, that we should be able to teach the complete and true history of this country and understand how that history connects to the present. And you've seen her leading in making sure that the funding that's going to HBCUs and minority serving institutions in our tribal colleges, making sure that we are preparing teachers of color, because we know that they leave the teaching profession at a disparate rate. She has been leading on that effort, and we know that she will continue to do just that.
So so that she's an ally then for the educational system and for educators and for your organization? She
is absolutely an ally, and what our challenge that we are taking on is everyone will know Vice President Harris, as well as educators know Vice President Harris.
That's interesting. How was it under the Trump administration?
How long is this show?
We got time today, Becky. We got time today.
The first thing he did was to appoint Betsy DeVos as the Secretary of Education. Yeah. This is someone who literally saw it as her mission to destroy public education, to allow predatory lenders to take advantage of our college students. We've been talking about that. The Biden-Harris administration has done amazing work in eliminating,
which also affected a lot of black and brown people who rely on tuition, on financial aid,
to reduce their debt. And what did Betsy DeVos do? She had students who graduated, started teaching, and 5 years later they owed more than when they graduated. That's what he had in Betsy DeVos. He made sure that at every turn he diminished and dismissed and disregarded teachers as the education professionals they are. He made every effort and followed through on not funding our students with disabilities, not funding our students living in poverty. And we have but to look at Project 2025. He wants to diminish Head Start. That's where our kids get their start, especially those coming from our historically marginalized communities. So we have the evidence of what he's going to do. In addition to what he's going to say, we know there really isn't a choice in this country. There's no choice. It is Kamala Harris. It is Tim Walz.
And is that a message that you also push through the organization? Is that possible? Do obviously people vote for who they want to vote for, but are you also sharing the message of, hey, these are the positives that can work well for you and the union and educators across the country, or you can have this option, and we see what he did already. Is that a message that you're pushing out there?
Absolutely. And I'm also saying we have evidence of how that message worked in the elections in 2022 and the elections in 2023. We elected people from the school board all the way up to Congress who care about our kids and care about our communities and care about our colleagues, and who understand that public education is the foundation of this, and honestly, any democracy. We did that. So we know how to do it, and we're going to do it again.
So they've got your 5-point plan?
Oh, I only need 3. Organize, We need to organize everybody. Anyone who likes us or loves us or intends to keep living with us, they're going to vote. And they're going to vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. We're going to mobilize like never before. In fact, we're already doing it. We did trainings yesterday. We're going to make sure educators know how to tell their stories. You know that teachers are still the most trusted voice in any community. So they're going to be out knocking on doors. They're going to be gathering people in their homes. They're already doing it. And we're going to proselytize. We're going to make sure that we change hearts and minds, because guess what? We're going forward, not one step back.
They need you on the stage this week, okay? You got the 5-point plan, organize, mobilize, get out there and get it done. Lastly, before I let you go, what's the one mission this week? What are you hoping to gain or get out of Chicago this week?
Hope. We know that we can't accomplish what we need to if we don't believe in the plausibility of the possible. When we leave this city, we will know what's possible. When we leave this city, we will understand our power, the ability to act, to influence, to make a difference. When we leave this city, we will be ready to win, not just the presidency. We're going to win all the things. All the things. We're going to win all the things.
All the things.
All the things.
I can't end it any better than that. Becky Pringles, good to see you again.
Always.
Thank you for being here on Politics in Color. She is the president of the nation's largest union association, Miss Becky Pringle.
Thank you.
It's the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Join the conversation with web channel Politics in Color, powered by BitCentral, Globecast, Blakehon Media, and Aza Group.
We're back. We are back here at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois. I am now joined by Tom Perez, former Labor Secretary under President Obama, senior advisor to President Obama, former chair of the DNC, but joins us in his personal, individual capacity.
Absolutely. It's great to be with you and all of your listeners and viewers.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tom, for joining us. There's been a real energy shift, a real energy boost just within the last 3 weeks. First of all, are you sensing that? And how will the party be able to maintain that energy through November 5th?
Well, the short answer to your question is absolutely. I see it. I've been to somewhere almost 10 places over the last 3 weeks or so, and whether it's rural Maine or the heart of Detroit or the heart of Milwaukee or the heart of Phoenix, the energy's there, the excitement is there,
and the money is there.
And it's it's manifested in many different ways. And when we talk about money, people immediately think, big donors are giving. Well, yes, there's some big donors who are giving, and we appreciate that. But when you look at the numbers, the number of new small dollar donors, that's a huge part of the fundraising right now. People giving for the first time, $100, $50, $25, and it's remarkable. Volunteer shifts, that's another bellwether we use.
Sure.
And there has been dramatic increase in the number of people volunteering. Some people are knocking doors, some people are making calls, some people are writing postcards, some people are texting. There's so many ways that people can get involved. And for the 76 or so days that remain, it is a marathon sprint, because I think the excitement is very the reason is very clear. We have two candidates in Kamala Harris and Tim Walz who are running to bring out the best in America, who are running to make sure that everyone gets a fair shake, who are running an optimistic campaign of inclusion and opportunity. They're not pitting one group against another. They're not looking for ways to divide and denigrate communities. And they're fighting for freedom. The freedom of women to make choices, the freedom to vote and make sure that vote is counted, the freedom to breathe clean air and clean water, so that, and by making sure we're putting lead-free pipes across America. They're fighting for an America in which we honor, respect, and embrace our immigrant history. We don't pit black people against brown people. We come together. And I think people are sick and tired of the politics of division, and they want leaders who they're going to help them with their pocketbook issues. And Kamala Harris outlined a very explicit program of how to bring down costs, how to go after grocery chains that are profiteering off of people, how to go after unscrupulous lenders. She's got some track record on that. Right. And how to make sure we bring down the cost, continue to bring down the cost of prescription drugs, to make sure that we have a nation where everyone gets a fair shake. And that's why I am so excited right now, and we've just got to sustain it. And I was a trial lawyer for a while, and one thing I learned is on a good day in court, you never got too giddy. Right. And on a down day in court, you never got too down. Right. And that equilibrium served me well in the courtroom. It has frankly served me well in life. And that's what we have to understand. As I think the president said, or the first lady last night, there will be days where we make a mistake. Right. And we can't let that get us too down. And at the moment there are days and weeks actually, and we're into months, where we are articulating a vision that really captures people. And so let's do it together.
When we came out of the Michigan primary, there was a new category or designation for people. There were these dual haters. There were also a large number of undecideds. How now does the Harris-Walz campaign, how does the Democratic Party reach out to those folks, energize those folks, and bring them back into the game?
By articulating that optimistic vision. Okay. And that's exactly what's happening. I've already been looking at polling, and you see those so-called dual haters who didn't support either of the candidates, and they see in the vice president and Tim Walz, folks who can really articulate a vision of the future. Okay. That grabs them, that inspires them. Okay. And I think you're going to continue to see that at work. And and again, the polling bears that out. I mean, Donald Trump hasn't been able to figure out. He tries to label everyone. Right. And he hasn't been able to do that, because you know what? Here's the label for Kamala Harris. She's a fighter. She's fighting for ordinary Americans. She is fighting for decent jobs. She's fighting for women's reproductive health. She's fighting to make sure we reduce violence. She's fighting for equity and inclusion for everyone. Okay. And that is, I think, a message that resonates across an ideological spectrum.
Tom Perez, thank you so much for your time. Senior advisor to the President of the United States, but talking to us in his personal capacity.
And I am honored to be here in my personal capacity.
Thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right.
Good to see you.
All right. Folks, we are here. Politics and Color is where you are. We're here at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois, in the house that Mike built. Stay tuned. Whole lot more.
It's the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Join the conversation with web channel Politics in Color, powered by BitCentral, Globecast, Blakehon Media, and Aza Group.
And we're back at the Democratic National Convention here in Chicago, Illinois, at the United Center. I am joined now by Amy Steele, CEO of the North Carolina Project. Amy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
The North Carolina Project, voting turnout is very, very important. What is the North Carolina Project?
So, New North Carolina Project is a voter mobilization and voter registration organization. I started it after running for House twice and losing, and really understanding that there were more than 1 million black and brown voters left on the table who were either eligible to register to vote and just didn't register, or they were registered but just didn't vote.
It seems as though we are going through this effort every 4 years. Why?
You want to know why?
I'd love to know why. And that's why you're here, because you can tell me why.
So as a former Spanish teacher and school principal, I can tell you,
Yes.
prior to me getting involved in politics, no one ever stopped by my door. No one ever came by and said, hey, are you interested in learning about who's running for office? We have an engagement problem, and it's a problem that is not rooted in trust. It's not rooted in, just people understanding what importance voting has in their lives. We really don't make politics sexy enough for people to grab a hold to every single year. So they really only talk about it every 4 years, and therefore we have an engagement problem.
So politics isn't sexy, but paying $3.50 for a head of lettuce, paying $21 for a gallon of milk, and $14 for a pound of chicken wings, that's not sexy either, but that's real.
It is real. And let me tell you what happens. We don't make the argument of politics being relative to someone's everyday life enough, and that's why we have an engagement challenge. What my organization does is we seek after 4 pillars, right? We educate people on economic mobility, housing security,
Okay.
public safety, and civic engagement, and then we tie that to voting. That's the difference, and that's what's needed in between these major election years every 4 years.
So as a former principal and former Spanish teacher, and I'm not going to ask the next question in Spanish.
Pero si se puede.
Okay. So, what happened to civics in the classroom?
So we still have civics in the classroom, but we have so much division. What you have to understand is teachers are designed and trained to
Correct.
be nonpartisan and as unbiased as possible, because face it, we don't want to hear from parents about indoctrinating their children. Plus, we're trained that way. So over the years, teachers have gotten very crafty at how they teach civics 101 and
Okay.
political economic systems and all the courses, but we've only just begun by teaching the basics. We really haven't taken a deep dive of making sure our young people are registered to vote, making sure they really understand what politics means in their lives. And so teachers have also shied away from these things because, face it, they can be brought up on grievance accusations, right, or have grievances filed against them just by mentioning certain things from a political perspective, even if it is nonpartisan in classrooms. So therefore, we see this kind of downplaying of the importance of civics education overall.
Is that a partisan issue? Is the hit that teachers are taking on the civics curriculum, is that a partisan issue?
Well, it's become a partisan issue. It shouldn't be,
Right.
but it's become a partisan issue, just like teaching people about our culture and making sure we understand what our history is has become a partisan issue. It's American history. This is American
Right.
civics. It should just be a part of the curriculum. I'm a curriculum specialist. We should ensure our curriculum is rooted in truth, honesty, and facts.
That's a tough call right there in this climate. Should civics be, or is civics or American government, or however you want to frame it, is that a part of the platform that you all are teaching in your program?
So in our program, we're actually teaching everyday Americans about how life choices actually impact them politically.
Okay.
And how, for instance, energy efficiency, those are political decisions.
Right.
Whether or not people tell us, or they tell us about the fact that their water bill, their gas bill, their power bill are more expensive, or they cost more than their regular mortgage and their rent. And so we showed them how the bipartisan infrastructure law or other very important pieces of legislation actually make the way for them to have funding to be able to pay for those those things. So we don't explicitly teach civics, right? But what we do is we encourage people to know how civics actually applies to their lives. Until people understand the connection, they're not going to say that it's so important to vote. So we've got to make that connection from a voter education perspective.
So in terms of an operational, how do you operationalize this? How do you get the people to come in? Or do you is it outreach on your part?
Yep.
How long of a program is it? Give me some practical operational aspects of the new North Carolina project.
Okay, so for instance, we knock doors every day. We knock thousands of doors each week with our force of people who work for New North Carolina Project. On the doors, we talk to people about those 4 pillars, but particularly about energy efficiency, and energy upgrades. We are using funding from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the National Renewable Energies Lab to take the message of how we can upgrade and update people's homes and provide weatherization updates. How we can replace their HVAC systems to make them more energy efficient, and how we can replace their heat pumps or hot water heaters with heat pump hot water heaters to make their energy use more efficient. Once we do that, we then engage them on a monthly basis through family nights and through a little thing we like to call pancakes and politics.
Right.
And we just invite people in for a meal to really learn what we're doing at all of our programs, learn all about our programs.
What about solar? Is solar part of that energy program in North Carolina?
Not yet, but Solar for All is quite an amazing program.
So why isn't solar currently part of the program?
So solar is not a part of our program, but it's certainly a part of some other climate and environmental programs. We have chosen to focus on energy efficiency because when we knocked 48,000 doors in 2022, people told us that all they wanted to do was make their lives better from an everyday perspective. What could we do? When they told us these things, we took those things to action. We created programs, and those programs are what we talk about when we go knock on those doors. We also sent 2.2 million text messages, made 135,000 phone calls. So we stay connected to our community. We have monthly events, and we enroll them in a program that works for whatever thing they're trying to fix at that time.
You must also be psychic because metrics was my next question. So about how many people, beyond the phone calls, about how many people have you all touched?
So we have touched over 80,000 people with our messaging on the doors, the phones, and the text messages. And these are responses that we have received. These are conversations we've had. These are engagements we've had. We've worked with people from a digital perspective. So I raise money all the time to make sure this operation keeps on going. But this is what we do because we know that, again, I started the organizations trying to get people to vote, but people didn't care about voting only. They want to know, how do you make my life, how can you make my life better? Then talk to me about voting. And so that's what we did. We just flipped the message.
Muchas gracias, Amy Steele.
De nada, señor. Mucho gusto.
Amy Steele, CEO of the New North Carolina Project. Thank you so much for joining us. Folks, Politics in Color is where you are. PoliticsInColor.com is where you need to be. There's more. Stay with us.
It's the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Join the conversation with web channel Politics in Color, powered by BitCentral, Globecast, Blakehon Media, and Aza Group.
Welcome back to DNC as we continue to have great guests. Now we have one that we did not expect to see, the Republican Byron Donalds out of the great state of Florida. You're at the DNC. I saw you weeks ago at the Republican National Convention, your home. Now you're in Chicago, the home of the Democrats. Why?
I take our message everywhere. Doesn't matter where it is. DNC, RNC, South Bronx, Detroit, Philadelphia. This is about our country. This is about public policy that's going to allow black people, Hispanic people, white people to thrive. It's about kids that grew up like me out of inner city Brooklyn. What are those policies that's going to let a young black kid in the inner city be able to reach for the stars and change his economic stripes in life? You cannot do that with price controls and price gouging laws. You cannot do that with raising corporate taxes and raising wealth taxes. You got to spur economic growth. You can't stifle it.
Is this what you think the agenda is for Vice President Harris?
That's what she said.
No, well,
she literally said that the other day.
She hasn't quite laid out the entire plan, which is what this week is all about. So we have to first see what the policies are before you start attacking what they are, no?
No, I'm not attacking. I just say they're not going to work because history has already demonstrated they don't work.
Well,
so, but to that point,
yes,
Kamala Harris has run for president before.
She has.
So we're looking at what she has advocated for when she was in the U.S. Senate, what she ran on when she ran for president.
And we all know that didn't work out well. She
did not
dropped
work out
before even the primary.
But she ran nonetheless.
Right, but she ran on a different platform.
What are the policies that she voted for in the Senate to break ties in the Senate and supported as vice president of the United States? We would love to talk about all her policies, but she doesn't talk to the press. There's no policies on the website. And I'm not even trying to be glib. I'm not trying to be funny. You're running for president. You're not
it's been
running
17 days.
It's
Byron.
been 32 days.
Okay.
32. Let's get it right now.
Okay.
It's been 32 days. And hold on. Joe Biden, the Democrats decided they didn't want him to run. Fine. She's thrust into the spotlight.
Since August 6th, yes.
You have a responsibility to the voters of this country who are dealing with massive price inflations, unsecured border, and national security conflicts around the globe. You have a responsibility to have an agenda for them to look at, chew on, consume, and ask questions. Kamala Harris is giving no ability to do that. That is wrong, in my view.
I understand that that's wrong. So we already understand that she's working on her policies. And we know that this week, not maybe.
We'll see.
She's going to be the official nominee in just a couple of days. So we know that. Sure. And we can't just say that the Donald Trump policies were best for everyone. And I want to talk about people of color.
Sure.
Was that the best for communities of color, black and brown, disadvantaged people under his policies?
When Donald Trump was president, wages adjusted for inflation for black Americans was the highest it ever has been in our country.
There was also a factor of COVID. COVID was a factor on that, and so then the
COVID-19 is the thing that nobody could factor in coming. Nobody thought there was going to be a pandemic that shut down the globe. Right. Let's now in retrospect, let's just be honest about where we are. You look at his first 3 years. You had massive security at the border. Our cities were not overrun with illegal immigrants. You have black people in Chicago, in New York, in Philadelphia, who are saying, why are these illegal immigrants taking away resources that should be in my community? I'm a citizen and we're struggling.
On immigrants, Byron, and you know
America was built on legal immigration, not illegal immigration. And this is the difference between a Republican vision and a Democrat vision. I have no problem with immigration. I want robust immigration.
Well, then why did the
Republicans
push through the plan that was on the table?
Push through what plan?
There was a plan that was on the table that apparently was paused so that Donald Trump could take credit for it if and when he got into the White House. There was a plan on the table. Is that incorrect?
So that is incorrect. The talking points are cool, but now let me tell you the deal. Let me tell you the deal. House Republicans had a bill to secure the border. We passed it more than a year ago. Chuck Schumer, who I think was on the stage a little bit ago, did not bring it up for debate in the Senate and didn't bring it up for a vote in the Senate, didn't even want to discuss it in the Senate. The Senate decided to put together their bill. We told the Senate, myself, Speaker Johnson, leaders in the House, we said, negotiate your bill all you want, but until you pass something, H.R. 2 is the bill that matters because it's passed the Chamber of Congress. Hold on, but wait, there's more. This is the last point I'm going to make. When we started getting the elements of the Senate bill, myself and Speaker Johnson, we had a phone call, and we agreed that bill would never get a vote in the House because that bill, what it authorized was for 1.4 million illegal immigrants to come into the country every single year before executive measures could be taken. That bill was a non-starter in the House. So it's easy to say, oh, Donald Trump stopped it, but that's not true. House leadership, House rank and file members like myself, we were opposed to the Senate bill the first time we caught wind of it. We didn't need to wait for Donald Trump on that.
Why are you waiting on Donald Trump anyway? He's not the president of the United States. He's not the president. Is he the president of the Republicans?
No, he's not the president of the United States.
Right. So
he's the leader of our party.
Council anyway, when you have your own body that can make decisions and vote on rights for the American people.
But I want to be clear.
Not in that position.
But I want to be clear. We didn't consult him. The media says we did. The Democrats say that we did, but we did not. We read the bill and we're like, no, that bill is dead on arrival. That bill's hot garbage. That's one of the first things I said when I read it. I said, that bill is trash.
Okay.
We shouldn't vote for it.
So there might not.
But hold on. Let me make this point.
Okay.
What is Kamala Harris's role right now? She's vice president of the United States. You can stipulate whether she's the border czar or not.
She is not the border
Yes, she
czar.
is, because even Joe Biden called her that, and so did the media, and the clips are out there on the internet. Don't do that. Come on, let's be real. But that being said, she has an opportunity today to secure the border. She could do it right now with Joe Biden. She can go to California, because he left. He ain't even here no more. He left. She can go to California, sit with him, craft a border security measure. They can do it through executive order. They can do it right now. Why won't she do that?
Well, because right now she's about to accept the official nomination for President of the United States with the Democratic ticket.
The official nomination doesn't matter to border security for our country. You know
then
this.
They can start putting together the policies, and we know that immigration is on the ticket for everyone, people of color, this entire country, economic policies. What we didn't get to and we need to is Project 25.
Okay, this is the last one. I'm gonna let you talk. I'm gonna let you ask this question. I'm not even gonna bail on this one. Go ahead. Last question. I'm not going to bail.
Project 2025 is a problem. And black people and people of color are fearful of what this 900-page document could mean if someone like Donald Trump got back into office.
So let me tell you a little bit about Donald Trump. Just because an outside organization puts together a bunch of policies doesn't mean that he adopts them.
Outside.
Hold on now. Now this is important.
People that worked with him, for him, under his administration.
So let me educate you on this one.
Go
you know
ahead.
how Capitol Hill works?
I do.
There are people who work on Capitol Hill who go work at think tanks, and they go back and forth all the time. It happens on the Democrat side of the aisle. It happens on the Republican side of the aisle. The Center for American Progress is littered with former White House staff under Democrat administrations and Hill staff from Democrat offices on Capitol Hill. So this happens all the time. There are people in these outside groups who write white papers of policy all the time.
Are you telling me he had no idea he's not connected to Project 2025?
He's not. He's already said he's not. If you want to know what Donald Trump wants to do, go to his website, because he's posted his policies.
Is that true
with
social,
the details?
Or is that the campaign side?
DonaldJTrump.com. Go right there. You can look at all of his policies.
Should black
he
and brown people
them out.
be fearful of Project 2025?
No, because Project 2025 is not the agenda for Donald Trump. His agenda is on his website. He has laid it out very specifically. He talks about it at every rally that he does. He talks about what he's going to do and what he wants to do. There's a ton of people on Capitol Hill who have ideas. That doesn't mean they get implemented. That doesn't mean they get an up or down vote. I think for the Democrats to use the boogeyman of Project 2025, because that's what it is. It's a boogeyman. It's a boogeyman.
What's your biggest issue if she got into the White House, and then I'll let you go?
That she wouldn't fix anything. She would follow the same agenda that they're doing right now, which will lead to stubborn inflation, a stagnant economy, more illegal immigrants overwhelming our country. And then how does the foreign policy situation change? Is she going to negotiate with Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping and the mullahs in Iran?
Is she
I don't
not
think
able
so.
to do that? Are you saying that she doesn't have the capabilities to do foreign policy? She's vice president of the United States.
And all I'm saying is I've not seen her do that. I've seen Donald Trump do that. And here's why I say that. Hold on, this is important. Because presidents, they come and go. The outcome of their policies is what remains. When Donald Trump was president, did Vladimir Putin move on Ukraine? Yes or no?
No.
I'll wait.
You know what?
I'm gonna wait.
No. And we this is to be continued, because you're here at the DNC.
I'm here.
And look, you are in high demand. You know why? Because people want to hear your position and really see why it is that, you feel the way you do.
Listen, my new name is Just the Facts. Shout to Jay-Z.
It's just Byron Donalds.
It's the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Join the conversation with web channel Politics in Color, powered by BitCentral, Globecast, Blakehon Media, and Aza Group.
Welcome back to Politics in Color. We are still live here at DNC. As the week rolls on, we continue to have some of the best guests as we are in the best situation. Do you realize that this is Michael Jordan's statue? Right here on our set, you're in the best seat in the house.
I love it.
Our guest now is Derek Turbin. He's the chair Democrat of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. Welcome to us here for joining the conversation, Politics in Color.
Thank you so much for having me, Dara.
Listen, first off, how's Hawaii? How's everything? Fires, I know, a while ago, a couple, make sure everybody's good. You look good. How's everyone?
Thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah, we've worked really hard to take steps to move in the right direction. We've recently secured, well, not we, but the victims of the fire, the Maui fire, secured a settlement in Hawaii. So,
that's good.
Yeah, we're happy about that. So things are moving in the right direction.
And I asked that too because I know that the government was essential. The Biden administration was essential in trying to help and put funding there and making sure that all the victims were helped.
Absolutely. And, that's why this election is so important. First, our Governor Josh Green worked incredibly well with the Biden administration, getting relief, getting aid there really quickly, providing emergency housing to a lot of the victims who lost their families. But it's a long recovery. It's going to be a long recovery to rebuild Lahaina. So that's why it's so important that we elect Kamala Harris to be our president, to keep that good level of communication going, to ensure that the disaster relief aid keeps flowing to Hawaii, and we can rebuild Lahaina and that crucial part of Maui that tragically burned down last August.
So would you say then that when you were working, or when the state was working with the Biden administration, was there and this is going to sound like a crazy question, was there a good sign of leadership, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Great teamwork between the governor's office, Governor Josh Green, and the Biden administration. And I thought the Biden administration really worked wonders in bringing aid quickly to Hawaii. And, I'll say this, I am the chair of the Democratic Party, but I'm also someone who is a strong supporter of the Biden administration. They got a lot of good things done, which is just one of the many, many reasons I am firmly behind Kamala Harris, because she was a crucial leader in an administration that did a lot of great things.
Yeah, and that's what I was leading to. When you work with an administration that actually supports you, I'm from New York. When I think Hawaii, I'm like, wow, that's so far away. I go there for vacation, and it's so far away. And so maybe sometimes you guys can feel like the stepkids, or sometimes feel left out because you are so far away, and people just come usually for about a month for vacation and then go back. So working with an administration that supported you, especially during the time of need, versus possibly working with a Trump administration who what would that be like when we talk about leadership and support for people that don't look like him?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm very concerned about Trump administration. I feel like when he was president in 2016, he really looked at, I'm going to support red states. Blue states are the enemies. We saw that with disasters, issues that arose in plenty of blue states. So I just think that that's going to be a real concern. We have two great U.S. senators, Senator Hirono, who's a Democrat, Senator Schatz, who's a Democrat.
I love her. She speaks her mind, doesn't she?
Oh, she's great. She's a warrior.
I love to see her. I'm like, she's in there.
I know. We should have invited you to our breakfast this morning. She spoke at our delegation breakfast. And she's a warrior. She's tough. And she's also just has such a great relationship with Kamala Harris. So having, again, Kamala in the White House is going to be crucial to Hawaii's ongoing recovery efforts. And like you said, I sometimes I get it. There's a misunderstanding. People see Hawaii as just a vacation,
just a destination.
Exactly.
Yeah, but there are real people there with real lives,
real issues.
Real issues. So the Hawaii Democratic Party, what is your main concern, I guess, into this election? We were just talking about the issues that are going to the ballot. People of color have certain issues. Religious groups have certain issues. What's the issue, or what's most concerning for your constituents going into November?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, we got to reelect Senator Mazie Hirono. She's a strong candidate. We feel good, but can't take anything for granted. So, I got to make sure I'm working on the ground to ensure, we're not leaving anything up to risk. Reelect Congresswoman Jill Takuda. She's great. And Congressman Ed Case. So ensure we get those folks back in office, because they do a great job representing our state. As for direct issues, we talked about disaster relief for Maui. Absolutely crucial. Keep that recovery going to rebuild Lahaina and the neighboring communities that suffered. there's a lot of really important democratic policies that are incredibly popular in Hawaii, like women's reproductive rights is crucial. Supporting LGBTQ plus rights, Medicare, Medicaid, ensuring that, our seniors have health care.
Right.
And those are all things
because it's also a retirement place. People go there to retire. So, yeah.
Yeah. Also, so many crucial issues, and I know this has come up a lot at the Democratic National Convention, but
tell us more.
Let's keep Project 2025 as far away from our government, our federal government, as possible, because those are issues that suddenly become at risk if Trump gets into the White House.
It's scary. It's a scary time.
Oh, it's terrifying. This is not a cliche. Like, democracy is on the ballot. We got to do everything we can to protect democracy and elect Kamala Harris as president.
So Hawaii has the fortune of not being a border state, right? So, more, what do we call it? The mainland? More in the mainland. Some of the issues, the top issues, of course, are immigration, gun control, things like that. The issues that you all don't have. So that's interesting that LGBTQ rights, which I guess DEI and diversity rights would be up there. So I'm interested in what some of the voters' rights issues would be going into the ballot.
Yeah, well, again, it's protecting those rights. Again, protecting LGBTQ plus rights. The federal benefits that a same-sex couple would receive is incredibly important. That's something we got to protect. We got to make sure that the federal government doesn't step in and push away those benefits. You brought up gun control, gun safety. We are I'm pretty sure we're the safest state when it comes to gun safety, but we get another conservative justice in, they start challenging those safety bills that our legislature and governor has passed. Right. And, that it's a scary thought to have where we don't become that safe haven from gun violence.
That's right.
When you're up against the federal government, you're up against the federal courts. We see what President Biden did with appointing incredible liberal justices at federal courts in Hawaii and obviously at the Supreme Court too. So we want to keep Hawaii blue, and by doing that, we gotta.
Hasn't it always been blue?
Yeah, Hawaii has always
but I
been
guess,
blue.
But to your point, I think what I hear you saying is that it's a fragile time.
It's a fragile time.
Right, for the entire country. Whether you're, I'm in New York, you're in Hawaii, I would just think Hawaii is, it's paradise, which it is. But you're right, it's a fragile time. One additional Supreme Court person or one, conservative senator or congressperson could really tip the scales.
Exactly.
So this is an exciting week. Are you feeling the energy of this DNC?
It's funny. I'm sleeping like 2 to 3 hours a night, but I'm still waking up so energized that I'm losing my voice, but I show up into this arena and, my heart's beating. I'm just so excited.
Wait, for roll call, what did Hawaii do? What was the song for Hawaii?
It was a Bruno Mars song. Bruno Mars,
because he's Hawaiian.
Yeah, he's a son of Hawaii, went to Roosevelt High School, right down the street where I went to high school.
Of course, Bruno Mars. Well, I don't know which one. He's got so many.
He's got so many great songs. I've DJ Cassidy. That
was great.
He's amazing. I'm fanning out all week. Our governor, he did a great job. He did the roll call. I got to do the rehearsal where I went up to the mic and music was playing. That was on Sunday, and I was just so pumped. And then hearing the Bruno Mars song go on,
that's great.
I was ready to go.
I will let you out on this. What's the one goal this week? And obviously not just let's support Kamala. The one goal for your Hawaii contingency coming out of DNC this week?
I think it's coming out united, coming out pumped, just ready to do everything we can to re-elect our Democratic senator, re-elect our Democratic...
Down ballot is important.
Yeah, down ballot. And then just be pumped, ready to go to elect our first woman president, Kamala Harris.
There we go. Dick Turbin, the chair of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Dara. It was an honor.
Stay with us.
It's the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Join the conversation with web channel Politics in Color, powered by BitCentral, Globecast, Blakehon Media, and Aza Group.
And we are back here at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois. Dr. Julianne Mavo, economist, author, just overall brilliant woman. Julianne, welcome back. Welcome.
Always good to be with you. You know that. I think I just come by for the compliments.
Well, well, you come to the right place. You've come to the right place. So I'm going to start off with a question that I've been asking just about all the guests.
Okay.
What is in this 2024 election for the African American community and other communities of color?
Okay, folks who have a little time on your hands, don't read the whole Project 2025 because it's 900 and some pages. Read the introduction. If you read the introduction, you'll understand what's in it for us. Project 2025, or what does he call it? Project
47.
Yeah, the same thing,
right.
Different flavor.
He denies them both, by the way.
Well, of course, we know that certain people, if they had a collision with the truth, they wouldn't know what it was. They would have called it a hurricane. Our economics, our voter access, there are 55,000 roughly black people who have federal jobs. We've changed the nature of the federal civil service. You know, disproportionate number of those jobs are black women jobs. We can't afford to lose those jobs. Think about those implications on the economy and on the economy of the District of Columbia, you know, where we won't live. I mean, imagine that 10,000 black people lost their jobs in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
How are the ripple effects on that? It's a difference between, I mean, frankly, Wilmer, I say this. Presidents do not cure inflation. So we heard both our beloved vice president say, I will deal with inflation on day one.
Right.
And we heard the other guy say, I can manage inflation. No, that's not president's jobs. It's the Federal Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
And if you choose to deal with it, it's legislative. You can't even do an executive order to get rid of inflation. So I know that that's what people want to hear because people are grappling with rising prices. Right. But here's what we do know. There's more likely to be intervention on the legislative side with a Democratic president than with a Republican one. You just go down the list and say, what's important to you? The only people of African descent who might gain from a Trump presidency are multi-billionaires. And most of them have too much of a social consciousness to share that, even if it's true.
Right.
The billionaire tax cut doesn't want to give more money to people at the bottom, but give more at the top. The child tax credit, which pulled millions of children out of poverty during COVID. Kamala and team would extend that. That's a proven way to reduce poverty. The R's probably only give it to people who are not childless. I mean, or what Mr. Vance and his little cat lady. Now, for the record, I am childless. I got no cats, no dogs, no fish. I don't have enough affection for many humans to have extended to cats or dogs. But they say that they're pro-family party, but they're not. So what we have to look at and we have to say is, what's in it for you? Again, nobody's going to fix inflation, and we can always expect economic fluctuations. Today we learned as an example that the Bureau of Labor Statistics overestimated job creation. So the economy actually generated almost 800,000 fewer jobs than we thought it did. But it still generated more than it could have. It still kept the unemployment rates low. So economic fluctuations go with the territory. And the question is who you appoint to the economic committees, like the Fed, the FTC, who's get appointed there. You're also looking at what your philosophy is. The Republican philosophy is non-intervention. Just let the market rip. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter who, the Democratic philosophy is intervene when you can.
So I have a brilliant economist with me, so I'm going to ask two economic questions. The first one is on dealing with inflation. The Fed has been using interest rates as their tool for dealing with inflation, but this is not a demand side inflation. This is a supply chain problem.
Precisely.
So I would say political economy was one of my areas.
Okay.
That they're using the wrong tool because they only have one tool in their toolbox.
Well, they only have one tool in their toolbox. Many of us believe that they probably should have lowered the rate a couple months ago.
Okay.
And in fact, a couple of the governors of the Fed gave talks that sort of said, well, we're looking at it. They can't say we're going to do it because they would give away. I mean, the part of the Fed is it's a mystery to many people.
Right.
And to many people who are very economically knowledgeable. So, you see the stock market betting on what the Fed is going to do. So
right.
The Fed doesn't do it, the market goes down. The Fed does it, the market might go up. But there's no science to it.
Right.
The science is to look at what's going on. Do we need to contain inflation? Prices too. The science is looking at the indicators, but the science is not. If you do X, Y is going to happen.
Tax cuts. George Bush was big on tax cuts. In fact, we can go all the way back to Ronald Reagan and what his vice president called voodoo economics. The whole myth that if we cut taxes for the wealthy, that will put more money in their pockets. They will then take that money and somehow mysteriously it'll rain on all of us and we will benefit. Donald Trump, huge on tax cuts. I have not seen any residual return on those tax cuts. They have done with them what the wealthy do, keep the money in their bank accounts.
Precisely. The theory is you get a tax cut, you'll spend more money, the economy will expand. You get a tax cut, you'll hire more people, the economy will expand. We have not seen that. What we've seen instead with the Trump tax cuts is people kept the money. They didn't even invest it in their own companies. They invested in the bank, and they got the interest rate and all of that. And that's what they're operating. They're predatory capitalists who are operating at their own interest. They're operating in their own interest. Don't give anybody a tax cut as a public good because they're not going to use it as a public good. Give the middle class, working class some tax cuts. I guarantee you, will spend that money.
That was going to be my next point. If you expand the economy from the middle and the working class out, first of all, there are more middle and working class people than there are billionaires and millionaires. So if you expand it from the middle out, as Reverend Jackson would say, the rising tide lifts all boats.
Exactly. You don't put the money in the boat that's already at the top, but you put it in the rising tide. Mm-hmm. And it's a guarantee, Wilmer. It's a guarantee that if you have someone who's at the periphery in the economy and you give Boo $300 extra a month, that's going to be food.
Right.
That's going to be rent.
Right.
That's going to be bills. It's going to be economically expansionary. You give somebody at the top, maybe they might buy a yacht or something, which might be economically expansionary, but they're not going to invest in the economy in the way people at the middle and the bottom would.
So if you can look into camera number 3, and if you were to give 3 of the primary reasons why people in communities of color need to be engaged in 2024, what are the 3 things you want them to understand?
Number 1, what do you want 2028 to look like? I mean, we have an opportunity to do some building. The economy has not been perfect. Everybody knows that. But who's going to build it back better? And that's what President Biden said, build back better. And the infrastructure bill is a singular achievement of his administration. So number 1 is just what you want our country to look like. Number 2, if you're a woman, do you want bodily autonomy? Do you want to be able to decide what happens with your body? Or do you want your doctor to go to jail? Your doctor to go to jail because he chooses to treat you in a way that you mutually agree is the way to be treated. Number 3, I would definitely look at education, Wilmer. Eliminating the Department of Education, which is a goal, would mean eliminating Title I, which is money that goes to schools that have poor children, basically, want of a better word. It would probably do all kinds of things to our HBCUs. But the Department of Education is critical.
2 things, because I want to be sure that one, Title I, because a lot of folks think, Title I school, it must be a bad. My son went to a Title I school, And one of the reasons why, the additional money they received, they were able to provide more programs to everybody in the school.
Title I schools in and of themselves are not bad. Title I schools are schools that enroll large numbers of impoverished children, or children who live in an impoverished census tract.
Right.
Because I'm sure your child was not poor. But
no, he wasn't. And no, he's not.
But in an impoverished census tract.
Right.
So that means that there are fewer resources coming to those schools, and that's why Title I, since you're not getting enough resources, here, we're going to supplement that.
You mentioned HBCUs. I'm a proud alumnus of Howard University, PhD and Master's from Howard, BA from Hampton. Big shout out to Hampton. Why is the funding to HBCU so important and so important to you?
As you know, I'm a former president of Bennett College for Women.
Right.
And the Title III money is the money, it's higher education Title I. So when you have either some poverty, you have some issues. It's with not having invested in infrastructure, and you know why we don't invest in infrastructure?
Right.
Because we don't have the money. So all those reasons are to do Title III. Now, they don't just hand you a check. We actually have to go through a very complicated process to write your Title III application. This is what I'm going to do with the money.
Right.
And this is why it invests educational purpose. But I'll tell you, one of the things I did, it was one of my tricks, which is why my bag of tricks probably got me separated from it. But I used some Title I money to pave some of my sidewalks.
Okay.
Because we'd had 3 young ladies fall. That's a risk, and it's an insurance risk.
Right.
And the appearance of the campus, frankly, it serves educational purpose. So a couple of people said, you're not supposed to do that. And I'm like, oh, well.
Dr. Julianne Malveaux, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your work. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist extraordinaire, brilliant woman, and just a flat-out wonderful person. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate you.
Folks, we are here, Politics in Color. We are here at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois. There's still a whole lot more. Stay with us.
It's the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Join the conversation with web channel Politics in Color, powered by BitCentral, Globecast, Blakehon Media, and Aza Group.
Welcome back to the DNC here at United Center in Chicago. I'm Derek Kennedy, and all week we are giving you the best of the interviews from the best people that we can find, and I am joined by a friend and a colleague and an amazing writer. I guess you're also a law professor or attorney. Like he knows all the things. We're joined by Elie Mystal, who is a columnist at The Nation. He joins us now on set for Politics in Color. Elie, first, thank you for stopping by. I know you're in high demand here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And I'm not a professor. I just play one on TV.
Okay, right. Well, we love the analysis that you give because of your background. There's so many things that we want to touch on. The last time that you and I talked, it was pre-vice president candidate.
Pre the switch.
Pre the switch, Kamala Harris. And I know that the things that were on your mind then were immunity, abortion, because that's when Roe v. Wade had just been reversed. But now we've got topics like Project 2025. There's so much that's on the ballot for Americans, and especially people of color, for November 5th. Where should we start?
Yeah, I mean, you can start anywhere. I always like to start with abortion because abortion is the most, I think, critical issue facing us at this time. The Supreme Court has never taken away a constitutional right until it overturned Roe v. Wade. Now, there's some people in the Democratic Party that are not comfortable saying the word abortion. You know, they're not comfortable talking about reproductive rights. They're not comfortable talking about women's rights. They're not comfortable talking about equal pay. Kamala Harris is comfortable. Kamala Harris is willing and able to put the abortion issue front and center. And so when we talk about the switch, the thing that I probably was most excited about is that now we get to have a campaign that is about this most critical issue from a reproductive rights advocate, not a person who simply kind of pays lip service to reproductive rights to try not to piss people off. So I was very excited about that part of the switch, and I think she's a great person to take this fight to the next level.
And so are you saying that President Joe Biden was full of lip service in terms of protecting the rights of women?
Oh, I don't think I said that exactly.
Okay. The lip service part. The lip service part. Because
look, President Biden, I think, did his best, given who he was, given who he is, given the times that he came from. I mean, joking aside, I'm not trying to criticize him exactly. I'm trying to say that Harris has maybe a stronger foot forward than Biden was able to have on this particular issue, and I'm excited about that. So I'll keep it positive like that.
Well, we can just keep it real here. We can keep it real here because there has been chatter. And especially with the younger voters saying that will President Biden protect us? Will he go and fight for it? Because it is maybe a generational thing, or maybe he would say, well, if you all fight hard and just get the House back, then maybe we can fix this. Whereas
I feel like people in Biden's era, I think Biden to a large extent himself, treated abortion like a sad necessity, right? Like an oops, the cheerleader got knocked up. Oh well, that's what we're gonna. As opposed to
that damn
a
quarterback.
Fundamental issue of human rights, a fundamental issue of women's rights, a fundamental issue of personhood rights, and that's different than oops, somebody got knocked up. And I think Harris is the person who treats it like a fundamental issue. And that's why I'm so excited about her candidacy. I'm also excited about the fact that when we talk, to answer the second part of your question, really, Harris is particularly suited to beating back the anti-abortion forced birth rhetoric of the Republican Party, especially as it is laid out in Project 2025.
Right. Well, Project 2025. There we go. I was going to try and end on that abortion thing. Well, let me just do that here because as the Republicans, and let's just stop saying the Republicans and let's just say Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the one that says, that they kill the babies after they have them, and they let the abortions go all the way to terms 20-something. It's all insane, ridiculous, and inhumane, and that is not the case. That is not how people have abortions, at least in America. I don't know. He's in this banana republic in his mind. So the fact that you think the vice president here, we know this, and not just because she's a woman.
Not right.
Right, but because she just understands the basic needs of women should have the right to choose.
I just saw Congressman Jamie Raskin. Congressman Raskin is able to make this issue as forcefully and as passionately as Vice President Harris. So it's not just because she's a woman. It's because of what she believes and her fundamental values, I think, on this issue. And to your point about, the kind of lies and the spins that Republicans put on this, I don't think people fully understand just how radical the Republican Party has gotten on the legal issue of choice and abortion in our lifetimes. It was ridiculous to suggest even 20 years ago that any kind of revocation of Roe v. Wade would include taking away the exceptions for the life and health of a mother. It was unimaginable that you would take away Roe v. Wade and also take away the rights of people who are raped or people who have been victims of incest to have their reproductive freedom as well. But the Republican Party has gone so far off the deep end with this stuff that now taking away those exceptions is standard. And they are literally suing in courts to prevent things like the Emergency Medical Care Act from being able to provide life-saving medical services to women experiencing, terminal pregnancies. So the Republican Party is kind of far out to lunch on this, and the Harris Walz team represents what I would call a return to sanity and a return to decency about basic human rights and basic women's rights.
And I know you just got to DNC today, but they did have speakers on the stage, and you've seen it. The young woman who was raped by her stepfather, and if it would have happened today, she would have had to have what she called her parents' kid. The couple who couldn't get IVF treatment, or one that was almost about to die, and with her birth, and she couldn't. So people are driving across state lines, and what's on the ballot November 5th? I think it's in 7 states. Is that right? This is on the ballot in 7 states. Now,
just this morning, I saw it on the plane. When I was in the waiting in the gate area. They put it on the ballot in Montana as well, to make it 8 states where they've put it on the ballot to either protect abortion rights or to take them away at the state level. But
can we talk about that last part? Why does it have to go to the state level? Right? And this is your area of expertise, yes, which is why I wanted to talk about this with you, as amongst other things. But why are we pushing this down? Well, let's just keep it on the state level. Is that a sweep it under the rug? What is that approach? Tell us what that means.
So for a long time, when Republicans were arguing against abortion rights, because it is so popular, they weren't saying directly, we're going to take away our abortion rights. What they were saying was, we're going to take away the constitutional right, but let the states themselves decide whether or not there should be abortions. Let it be a voting issue at the state level, right? So California can have one abortion law, Missouri can have a different abortion law, right? Now that they've won that battle and returned it to the states, now the mask is off. Now the teeth are bared. And now you see that their plan was never to let this state and that state decide. Their plan was always to try to ban abortion in as many states and as many places for as many women as they possibly can. They want to, and this is how you've gotten from the abortion argument, which is a loser for them politically, to things that are even bigger losers for them politically, like going after IVF treatments, like going after contraception, which is the next phase of this battle. Again, hugely unpopular, but they want to say that let the states have their own laws, so whether or not you can control your reproductive health and reproductive rights, and literally contraception will depend on which side of the tracks you are, if you're in Missouri or if you're in Arkansas.
Well, these issues impact communities of color greatly. People that depend on these healthcare services. What will Vice President Harris or President Harris do to not only protect the rights overall, but make sure that people that look like us in our communities are protected? Because that's a fearful thought when you're thinking about who to vote for, and if and will you will be protected.
Well, I don't just believe that abortion should be a right, I believe abortion should be free. I believe that it's basic health care that should be free and covered, if not by your private insurance, then this should be mandated by the Affordable Care Act to be covered.
You can call it Obamacare.
Now, currently, we can't have that law. We can't do that suggestion because of a very small yet dangerous law called the Hyde Amendment, which prevents federal funding of anything related to abortion. Because of the Hyde Amendment, you cannot pay for an abortion through Medicare or Medicaid. Well, guess what? The largest percentage of women who are getting abortions are Black and Latina women living below the poverty line who cannot use their Medicaid to get abortion services because of the Hyde Amendment. So the Hyde Amendment, even before we get to Dobbs and Roe, the Hyde Amendment is what is making women pay out of their own pocket for their abortions as opposed to getting it through healthcare. So you know what happens? According to a recent study, I think it was a 2018 study, according to a study, I forget the actual percentage, but a large percentage of women said they had to delay getting their abortions in order to raise funds to pay for it. But now think about what happens with the states' rights, the abortion bans, right? Because if you don't get an abortion quickly enough, you can never get
an abortion. Well, according to the Republicans, you can.
Right? If you don't get an abortion those first 4, 5, 6 weeks because you can't afford it, then you can never get one, right? So the Hyde Amendment is something that we really have to seriously think about getting rid of in order to make abortions not just a right, but accessible to the people who need them most. It is something that I know that Harris is interested in. I know that President Biden even, for the first time, he was a supporter of the Hyde Amendment for most of his long career.
Half a century.
Of his long, distinguished, austere career. But just recently in the last budget, he actually came out against the Hyde Amendment for the first time in his life. So that was a thing. And certainly, I think Vice President Harris will continue that project of railing against and trying to get rid of the Hyde Amendment so that when we restore Roe, when we restore abortion rights, we're not just restoring abortion rights, we're restoring abortion access.
Derek Kennedy here, joined by Elie Mystal. He is a columnist for The Nation and much more than that, which is why I text him often and say, what are you thinking about this? And he'll say, well, I'm on vacation with my wife, but here's my thoughts. So now that I've got him in person, I'm going to knock all of these questions out. Let's go to immunity, which is something that I know you wrote extensively about as well. Again, we have to stop. President Biden is still our president, but we have to start thinking about the policies and agenda and the forward-thinking process of Vice President Harris, or President Harris, what she will be. What's going to be her take? What's your take on how she will approach immunity of what's left of it?
Well, she won't use it, right? She won't do what the Supreme Court says she can do, which is commit any crime under the books and never get prosecuted, right? Because remember, the immunity decision didn't just apply to presidents, it applied to presidents and vice presidents, according to the 6 conservative justices on the Supreme Court. Look, the immunity decision, I have a friend who writes about law on Vox named Ian Millhiser, and his quote about it was, the immunity decision is like learning that your daughter's 3rd grade teacher gave her cocaine. It makes you realize that you can't trust anything ever again.
Right.
And that's the immunity decision. The immunity decision from the Supreme Court is so out to lunch, is so antithetical to laws. And a lot of people, when they talk about the immunity decision, they don't talk about it as a black issue, right? Because there's only been 1 black president, and maybe there'll be 2, but it isn't something that's not generally applicable to most black experiences. But I like to talk about it as a black issue because it highlights the 2-tier justice system in ways that could not be more stark. You're telling me. Because remember, when we're talking about a president being able to commit crimes, we're not talking about alleged crimes, right? That's not what the Supreme Court says. The Supreme Court didn't say, like, oh, if the president maybe committed a crime, there's nothing we can do about it. The Supreme Court said, this president has absolute immunity for official acts. That's our crimes. So if the president in his official capacity commits a crime, the Supreme Court says, you can't charge him with that.
Yeah,
Tell me a black person in their job that has ever had that kind of immunity, right? Go find me the brother who's ever had that immunity, right? You know it, you smell it when you see it, you smell the hypocrisy and the unfairness when you see it, and that is that Supreme Court decision. It is awful. It must be stopped. Harris is supporting the amending the Constitution even to overturn this decision. I think you don't amend the Constitution. I think because the Supreme Court got the Constitution wrong.
Right. Well, there's racial undertones to it, too.
I think you changed the Supreme Court.
Well, yeah, the 6 conservatives is, that's a hard thing, but it leads us into Project 2025. We had Byron Donalds on Politics and Color, and I flat out asked him, I said, Byron, please tell us, should black people fear Project 2025? Why is Donald Trump involved in this? And he told me flat out, black people should not fear Project 2025.
Look, this is a brother who thinks that black people shouldn't fear Jim Crow. Because it was better for families, right? So maybe that brother isn't afraid of the right things. But anyway, let me answer the question with facts, all right? Project 2025 has sections for each department and what they want to remake them as, right? I focus particularly on the Department of Justice because that is the top law enforcement department in our country. And when you read Project 2025 and what it has planned for the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division, right? Civil Rights Division. These are the federal laws that allow you to go into various states, various former Confederate states, and apply federal civil rights laws to those old-time Confederate state laws, right? This is what the Civil Rights Division does. This civil rights, people might not like Merrick Garland. The current head of the DOJ Civil Rights Division is a black woman named Kristen Clark, who is unassailable in her competence and commitment to the cause, right? So what is Project 2025's plan for the Civil Rights Division? Not just to gut it. Gutting it would be too easy for them. No, they want to metastasize it. They want to transmogrify it into a division that sues for the civil rights of, wait for it, white folks. They want the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ, they say it in the project, they wrote it down, that they want the Civil Rights Division to sue employers who hire black people and brown people because of diversity initiatives. They want to sue for white people's civil rights, for a violation of white people's equal protection clause when there are empowerment zones, or contracts that are set aside for black-owned businesses. They want to put the Civil Rights Division on offense for white supremacy, as opposed to its current job playing defense against white supremacy.
So yes, black people should fear Project 2025.
I'm just saying that scares me at some point.
That's
the
right.
idea, because remember, when they're talking about suing people for hiring black people for diversity initiatives, that means hiring a black person.
Period.
Because the way the right wing works, the right wing mind works, every time a black person is hired, that black person was only hired for
Because of
diversity
DEI,
initiative, right?
right.
I write for a magazine called The Nation. I love them. One of the oldest magazines in the country. Started off as an abolitionist magazine. I rep The Nation, right? I'm their only, not their only, but I'm one of their only full-time black writers. All right, just
Were you a DEI hire?
So, the Project 2025 version of the DOJ Civil Rights Division allows them to sue my publication for hiring me because I took a job that could have gone to a better deserving white man. That is their actual logic. And it's not only gross and disgusting, it's something that I'm sure Byron Donalds is happy about. I'm sure Byron Donalds thinks that's fine. I'm sure Byron Donalds thinks there are lots of white people who are better positioned to take my job. Probably his too. That's just how he rolls. But it's not how I roll, and it's not how most black people I know roll. Most of us think that we deserved our jobs. Most of us think that we actually had to work harder than the white folks.
We always have to work harder to
our
get
jobs,
where
to get
we're here.
where we are. And the idea that you can sue us or sue our employers for daring to hire us is an anathema, or at least it should be.
And that wraps up Project 2025. This is my friend, but he is also a great writer and legal mind, Elie Mystal. Thank you so much for stopping by Politics in Color. We clearly to be continued.
Thanks for having me,
Right.
Derek.
All right. Thank you.
It's the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Join the conversation with web channel Politics in Color, powered by BitCentral, Globecast, Blakehon Media, and Aza Group.
We are back. We are here at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois, in the house that Mike built, the United Center. And Raheem Devon joins us.
Hey,
My
how you
brother,
doing? How you doing?
welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. What brings you to Chicago?
Oh man, this is an exciting time. We're charged up, about this election, about the transition of the VP becoming the president.
Right, right.
And then just here on behalf of community efforts as well, fair wages, for our community service workers. You
performed for them.
I performed
Monday night.
Last night. Shout out to all the wonderful artists that joined us on stage. Estelle, Dougie Fresh, a lot of.
Where was the Get Fresh crew?
Oh man, yeah. The Get Fresh crew was definitely in the house. I'm the adopted vocalist of the Get Fresh crew. The Dougie is like my OG. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And been a great mentor for me in the business. And I've always aligned my brand not only with music but community service. My nonprofit, the Love Life Foundation, and community efforts. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't choose to be any other place this week, but here in Chicago.
Why is the fair wage issue? Why does that resonate with you?
Well, I mean, the wage at $2 an hour is like that's like modern day slavery. You know what I mean?
Yes, it is.
So the goal and the agenda is to 25 by year 25, meaning 25 states. Where the organization, the foundation can go in and have these laws change and advocate for fair wages for all people of color and they're working in the service industry. You know what I mean? I think is a very important thing, especially them taking a very huge hit during COVID.
Mm-hmm. a lot of people would not think a musician would be as political as you obviously are. What brings you into this? Why is politics so important to you?
I mean, it really comes down to legislation and the laws and the things that affect us. From being service workers in this country to whether you're the majority or the minority. Whether you're an average working class citizen in America, or in my case, being a musician. Where we're fighting for fair wages as well. When you talk about streaming and the streaming platforms and what we get, which is a fraction of a penny right now. 0.03% for every stream. So on all fronts, the fight is the same. For justice and things that we deserve.
And technology is always promoted as being a benefit. Oh, this is the latest technology. Yeah. This is the newest and the best. And what, in many instances, what winds up happening is it eats into your wage.
Oh, no, absolutely. When you talk about the algorithm and AI, and things of this nature, I think, as technology continues to grow, and as these Fortune 500 companies continue to grow, and even in the tech world, I think it's very important that we have the proper legislation and laws to regulate it, so that we're not taking advantage of, as things are monopolized.
So you're not only political. I mean, you're here at the convention.
Yeah, and this is my first time, here. Knock on wood.
So talk about the vibe, because you are as a musician. Yeah. You're sensitive to the vibe. Yeah. You're to the energy. Yeah. So what is the vibe? What is the energy? What are you feeling in the room?
I mean, if I didn't have the opportunity to partake and be here during the season of Obama, right? But I mean, I can feel the excitement, being here, being a musician. Definitely the creative juices are flowing, in terms of content and records and anthems and things of that nature.
So you're feeling some creative. So there's some creativity.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be some great songs that come from. Absolutely. Well,
if you need some backup vocals,
you're my guy.
Let me know. Let me know. Absolutely. Not only am I a political scientist, but so to your demographic.
Yes.
To your generation.
Yes.
All right. Look in camera 3.
Yes.
And tell them 3 reasons why this matters to them.
Oh man, I mean, one of the greatest gifts that the Creator gave us was the gift of decision and free will. But here, in the country, we're still fighting for things. The other side, it seems like they're trying to pull back the hands of time, the time machine. And we have our God-given right to vote, and I think that it definitely can make a change.
Are you feeling a vibe with your fans? Are you feeling a vibe with your generation? Are they paying attention?
Oh, absolutely.
Are they in the game?
Absolutely. And I think that, and I think the youngins are in the game too. You know what I mean? My 18-year-old who's going off to be in the Air Force. You know what I mean? Super proud of him. In the game as well. You know what I mean? Like I think that again, we have to lead by example. And do our part as musicians. As community leaders, but like I say when I'm doing the work, in the field with the Love Life Foundation, you don't have to be Raheem Devon to care about people. You don't have to be a public figure to care about community, to strategize, to mobilize, and to
all
engage.
You need is to be alive.
All you need to be alive, and definitely get out to the polls. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I know who I'm voting for.
And more importantly, who you're not voting for.
And who I'm not voting for. Exactly.
Raheem Devon, brother. Thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Folks, we are here. That's it. We are here at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois. We got all kinds of folks coming through, the big bodies and the somebodies. Sitting there with us. Yeah. Raheem, thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Blessings.
Folks, politicsincolor.com, politicsincolor.com. Stay right here. There's more in store.
It's the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Join the conversation with web channel Politics in Color, powered by BitCentral, Globecast, Blakehon Media, and Aza Group.
And we are back. We are at the Democratic National Convention here in Chicago, Illinois, at the United Center. Melanie Campbell, thank you. Melanie Campbell, chair of the Power of the Action Ballot Fund, is my guest. Melanie, excuse me for stumbling on your name.
All right,
you know I know better.
Yes, that's okay. That's okay.
So one of the first questions I'm asking everybody when they sit down here is why does 2024, why is it significant to communities of color?
Well, I think the key for me is that there's the structure of what kind of country we will have, what kind of governmental structure we'll have is really what's on the ballot. And so what that means is if you hear people say, well, the democracy is on the ballot, well, what does that really mean, right? What it means is about what kind of government structure we have. We have 3 levels of government. Will that's continue to be the case based on where these 2 parties that we have, right, stand on that. And right now, we have one who said he wants to be a dictator on day 1, right? Just for 1 day. I don't know what that looks like, right? And then you have another party that's saying we want to keep a democracy, strengthen it. What do I mean by strengthening it? We need to make sure the Voting Rights Act is reformed. So we have the John Lewis Voting Rights Act passed, Freedom to Vote Act passed, so that everybody, one person, one vote. Too many people. I'm old enough. I wasn't there, but I'm old enough to know what my parents and my grandparents. I come from Mims, Florida, where Harry and Harriet T. Moore house was bombed before I was born in the 50s. Why? Because they were registering black folks to vote. So I came out of that kind of a culture, if you will, of understanding that people did truly die from my community that I grew up in. And so understanding that we have a lot of vote laws that have been passed to make it harder. Georgia is one of those states that just recently, just like this week, was trying to make it even harder when it comes to who gets to count the vote. So there's a lot going on. And so that's why that's my major concern when it comes to the structure, that we have 3 levels of government in this country. The founders built it that way, and it's worked for 200 plus years. So that's where I think there's a big concern about what's at stake in that broader sense.
More specifically, why is the election important to women and women of color?
Well, as a woman of color, black woman specifically, because as a black woman, I feel we've been under attack to control our bodies. When you talked about Roe versus Wade was overturned over a year ago plus now, attack when you think about attacks on economic freedom, when you have the Fearless Fund that was funding venture capital for not just black women but women of color who but the specifics about why that's important. If you want to grow a business, which means that you can build wealth, but if you can't get in this country, before the Fearless Fund started out of Atlanta, the sisters started it, black women got 0.006% of venture capital. Access to capital. That's on the ballot, right? And so when we say freedom is on the ballot, we're not just talking about freedom to do what you do, love who you love, which is important. We're talking about freedom to be able to fund our freedom, access to build wealth for generations in this country. So it's on the ballot.
Why, every 4 years, we keep hearing about voter registration in our community? Why is that such an issue? One would think, after all that we've been through and all the progress that we've made, and now, based upon a lot of that progress, so many things that are under attack, that it would be obvious but there seems to be this constant clarion call and this struggle to convince folks in our community that the ballot, that the franchise is important, and I could go on and on.
Yeah,
you get the question.
And I
Give me the answer.
think every generation, it is about your lived experience, right?
Right.
And when you have something, a lot of times, and coming out of Florida again, I'm not beating up on my state, but it's just a fact. My mother helped put Black history in the public school system. Well, God rest her soul, died in 2016, 87 years young. She was a public school teacher. But back in the 70s, when I was growing up, my mother and them helped put Black history. It used to be taught in Sunday school,
right,
in the Black church. But they got together, her and a whole lot of other folks, and got Black history put in the school system so that we would know that history. Our kids aren't being taught that. They're not even being taught civics in a lot of places.
Right.
So they don't know. We're failing our children as a country, right? And so that's part of it. It's not just apathy, like they just don't want.
Right.
They don't know.
Right.
And when you engage with young people and get them to kind of relax,
right,
and trust you a little bit,
right.
A lot of times they say they just don't know, especially the younger ones, and they don't want to mess up. So if I don't understand how it works or why, then I'm just not interested, right? But when they see that they have some power, and that because of the Generation Z, I hate all these alphabets,
right?
But they are what they are,
right?
The generation under 30, those young people really could change not just that young demographic. They have more numbers than any other generation, but they're not maximizing it. But I can tell you this. That energy is changing in the last few weeks.
Yes.
Because you have a generational shift taking place. I was out there really pushing for the Biden-Harris ticket to stay in place because I knew they were trying to take the vice president off the ticket.
Right.
So as a Black woman, we were fighting that.
Gotcha.
But we understood if they chose, they needed to choose the person who's always the second in charge is the vice president since the beginning of this democracy. So the energy level amongst young people has increased because they see a generational shift.
Melanie Campbell, thank you so much for your time.
You.
Chair of Power of the Ballot Action Fund.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it.
Appreciate
it's been too long.
Yes, it has.
You,
and so we're together.
Absolutely.
All right, and
No
we're going to
question.
stay together.
You got it.
All right.
You got it.
Thanks a lot.
All right, folks. Politics and Color is where you are. We're here at the DNC in Chicago, Illinois. There's more. Stay with us.
It's the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Join the conversation with web channel Politics in Color, powered by Bit Central, Globecast, Blakehon Media, and Aza Group.
And we're back at the Democratic National Convention here in Chicago, Illinois, in the United Center. And we are joined now by Julianne Stratton, the Lieutenant Governor of Illinois. Lieutenant Governor Stratton, welcome and thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
First of all, you all have put on a phenomenal event.
I am so proud.
You can't stop smiling.
I cannot. You know what? And you know I'm tired on the inside. I think all of us can hear our voices going. We've been talking and yelling and just filled with so much excitement. But even with that, as busy as it has been, when I think about our planning this convention and then being in a place where everyone is just having a great time, they're seeing this world-class city, and of course we have Madam Vice President Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket along with Governor Tim Walz. It is just exciting, it's full of energy, and I think that we are on our way to the best convention that has ever been hosted.
Talk about that energy, because I don't think you would debate with me that there was a little less energy a few weeks ago. There's been an incredible and exponential, I think, shift in the energy. Talk about what you think is contributing to that shift, and with the momentum that is being created, how do you all maintain that energy through the 5th of November?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I just have to start by acknowledging the incredible leadership of President Joe Biden, who's been one of the most effective presidents of my lifetime, and all of the things that he's done in conjunction with his vice president, Kamala Harris, who, as we now know, we have a truncated, campaign season. She has to tell her story, but she can look at those last 3.5 years of what she's been able to accomplish as the partner in governance to President Biden, just like I do as the partner in governance to Governor J.B. Pritzker. I mean, I think the energy is certainly on high. Energy alone is not going to take us over the finish line. This is going to be a close race. It's going to require everyone to get engaged, to not just say that it's momentum, although the momentum helps, I must say.
Right.
But this is going to take a lot of work, and people are going to have to not just sort of rest on their laurels and think, oh, this is exciting. It is. And it's historic. It is. But it's also going to be a fight. And we're going to have to make sure that people vote, that they educate others, that they get others out to vote, that they make sure that they make phone calls, donate, support, do whatever they can. As Michelle Obama told us last night, we have to do something.
You are the lieutenant governor in a state with a major urban center, Chicago, which is where we're sitting now. We could be talking about Los Angeles. We could be talking about Detroit. We could be talking about Washington, D.C. There are so many challenges facing the communities, and particularly the communities of color in our urban centers. What are some of the things that you see? What are some of the things that you're whispering or saying very loudly to the Democratic nominee about what are the needs and what can the government do to assist in those needs in our urban centers?
Well, look, I think first and foremost, government has one purpose, and that is to improve the lives of the people that we serve. That's what I get up to do every single day, and I know that that's what Vice President Harris is doing, and she will do that as the President of the United States. Think about some of the issues that any person is experiencing. We want safe communities. We want access to health care. We want our children to be educated and educated well. We want them to be able to go on to college without being saddled with debt. We want access to child care. Like, these are American issues. And certainly in some of our communities, our black communities, our brown communities, and our cities where we see some of the additional challenges, especially for our communities of color, it's important for us to make sure that their voices are at the table to lead us forward about what the solutions are for their communities. We know that student debt is an issue. So we need to make sure that as we're looking at eliminating student debt, that we recognize it will have a disproportionate impact on black families. If families can't go to a child care provider that's in their community, we know that they're not going to be able to work, right? So these are things that Vice President Harris is talking about, how to give an opportunity to everyone and to expand the middle class, and that's what she's going to do.
Final question for you. When we hear about a lot of the issues that you've just talked about, social safety net programs, I've always said, I always told my students, budgets are numeric representations of priority. And we hear all too often now, we don't have the money. So what do you see out of a Harris-Walz administration that would help address we don't have the money?
Well, I think first of all, what we have shown here in Illinois, which is why I'm so excited to have this convention here, is that Democrats are, in fact, the party of fiscal responsibility. I mean, right here in our state, 6 consecutive balanced budgets, 9 credit rating upgrades, eliminated our bill backlog. We have $2 billion plus in our rainy day fund. This is what we've done in a state where we have really become the epicenter of progressive values. And so what we hope to showcase here in this convention is what we can do in Illinois is be a model for other states and the federal government to say, yes, we need to address some of these social ills, but we also need to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. And as Vice President Harris said in her economic plan, cut taxes for the middle class, so restore the child tax credit so families can have a little more money in their pocket. When families have more money in their pocket, they can take care of their children, and some of those issues are going to go away.
Because it becomes a matter of you can pay me now or pay me later. If you don't provide for the middle class and for the working class, you either going to pay now or you're going to pay later.
And I think what we're hearing is that Vice President Harris wants to make sure that we invest in our communities.
Exactly.
Because when we do that, the return on the investment is high.
Thank you very much, Julianne Stratton, Lieutenant Governor of this wonderful state of Illinois. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful event.
Glad you're here.
All right, folks, we are here at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois. Thank you again, ma'am.
Thank you.
And Politics and Color is where you are. Stay right here. There's a whole lot more.
It's the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Join the conversation with web channel Politics in Color, powered by Bit Central, Globecast, Blakehon Media, and Aza Group.
We're back. We're here at the Democratic National Convention at the United Center in Chicago, Illinois. I'm joined now by John Estrada, 15th Sergeant Major, Marine Corps, and former ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago. Ambassador Estrada.
Well,
sir.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure to be here with you.
First of all, I know you were telling me how much of an honor it is for you to have been nominated by President Obama to be the ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago, because that is those are the islands of your birth.
That is correct. It was truly an honor, and it was not something that I seeked out. I actually wanted to do something else in his administration.
Mm-hmm.
But our 44th president, such a brilliant guy, he remembered along the way the campaign that Sergeant Major Estrada came from Trinidad and Tobago, and he denied me the job that I really wanted and offered me a much better job, as it turned out. How would you like to be the ambassador back to the country of your birth? That's how.
As an immigrant, what do you, please talk directly in your mic, as an immigrant, what do you make of so much of this anti-immigrant sentiment that we are hearing from the other campaign?
It is disgusting. And if I was to try to immigrate to the United States of America during this time of this hateful rhetoric, think of what America would have missed out on. I came here, worked hard, and became the 15th Sergeant Major of the United States Marine Corps, the top enlisted Marine for America, and then went on to be the American ambassador back to Trinidad and Tobago.
Wait a minute, let me do this. Explain to the, because I had an uncle who was a senior master sergeant in the Air Force,
right,
which I think is equivalent to your position. People don't understand the significance. If you could just quickly explain what that means.
Oh, definitely. So in all the services, you have the Army call it Command Sergeant Major. They are the senior enlisted advisor to the commanding officer. They work for the commanding officer only.
Mm-hmm.
As Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps or Sergeant Major of the Army, you work for the Chief of Staff for the Army, mm-hmm, which is the 4-star general,
mm-hmm,
or you work for the 4-star general, that's the Commandant of the Marine Corps.
Okay.
That is the only person you work for and you answer to.
Want to be sure people understand, yes, the significance, yes, of you. So back to the immigration issue.
Immigration issue.
Yes, sir.
Let's say young John Estrada is trying to immigrate in today's world. It would be extremely difficult. And again, look at what our great country would have missed out on. My leadership, mm-hmm, my mentoring, my service, mm-hmm, to this great country. I would not have had that opportunity to contribute to democracy and this great nation. So this anti-immigrant sentiment, it's disgusting, it's hurtful, it's hateful, and it's not right.
One of the issues that I have as a political scientist, one of the issues that I have with this immigration discussion is all this build the wall, build the wall, build the wall. We got to keep these people out. But nobody talks about the foreign policy that impacts their countries, decimating their economies in Central America, in South America, which motivates, encourages so many people to want to or need to come to this country.
You hit it on the head. You are quite correct. Our policy, other nations' policies, the French, whatever, but we're talking about the United States now, we affect what's going on in those countries. And as a former diplomat, again, and having a military background, been there in different capacities, military side, the diplomatic side, we have a responsibility, we do, to invest into these countries to try to help them be self-sufficient and take care of their economy. Because we are contributing to what's going on in their country.
Let me give one quick example. It was about 2 weeks ago, I think Chiquita Brands was found guilty in federal court in Florida for funding death squads in Colombia. So we get immigrants coming from Colombia and people saying, well, why are they here? Well, we've got U.S. corporate-backed death squads driving these people out of their countries.
That's
just a data point.
Right,
just
right,
a data point.
right.
In terms of Haiti, I know that's near and dear to your heart. When we look at what's going on in Haiti, it's horrific. Give us your insight into what you see happening in Haiti.
Haiti breaks my heart. As a young kid growing up not too far from Haiti in Trinidad and Tobago, we always heard about Haiti. Back then, I was not knowledgeable enough to know that Haiti is the second oldest democracy in the Western Hemisphere after the United States. A lot of people don't know that. We should have done a lot to help foster and nurture that democracy. Well, we can't take the full responsibility in the United States, but we could have contributed that close to us. That's a French issue. The French abandoned those folks. But we could be doing more to help in that area because our foreign policy also has helped contribute to what's going on in Haiti.
Now, to the moment we are in, you're here at the convention. There's been a tremendous amount of energy. Your thoughts on the energy, and based upon what you heard last night, what are 2 or 3 things that stood out to you in terms of the speeches that you heard last night on the floor?
Great speeches by all last night, and if I had to grade them, Michelle Obama, she was the bomb. Yeah. I fell for Barack Obama to fall out after her, but her speech, what stands out? Coming together as a nation, stop the divisiveness, get out the vote. The alternative is not good. Keep this enthusiasm going. It's not over yet. That's what stands out. We have to continue to push and push. Again, I said the alternative is not good. We have someone on the other ticket that's a wannabe dictator, and we could quickly lose all of our freedoms that we have in this country. And I've been to countries where people do not have those freedom of expression.
Ambassador John Estrada, thank you so much for your time. Greatly, greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Folks, Politics in Color is where we are here, live at the Democratic National Convention in the United Center, the house that Mike built. Keep it locked right here on Politics in Color.